Zheng Qinwen sat down in front of reporters this week and said something that, if you actually pay attention, reveals way more than a normal pre-match interview usually does. We're at the Mubadala DC Open, the event that opens up the North American hard court run leading into the US Open, and the draw has thrown up a first-round matchup nobody was expecting so soon. Zheng Qinwen, still the reigning Olympic champion from the Paris Games, is playing this week without a seed, and her opening opponent is Alex Eala, the Filipino player who just stormed her way to the second week of Wimbledon. Two of the biggest names in Asian tennis right now, drawn against each other in round one. Here's what a lot of people are missing. These two have already played each other, back in 2023 at the Asian Games, and that match was nowhere near easy. It went 3 full sets over 3 hours. Jung cruised through the opener, winning at 6-1, and it looked like a formality. Eala didn't agree. She fought her way back into the match, pushed the second set to a tiebreak, and took it 7-6. Jung had to grind out the decider, closing at 6-3 to survive. She carried that momentum all the way to gold at the Asian Games, and later that same year, she stood on top of the podium at the Paris Olympics too. Eala didn't go home from that tournament with nothing either. She bounced back and claimed bronze in the third-place match. So this DC Open meeting isn't two players who've never crossed paths. It's a rematch of a fight that already went the distance once before. So when reporters asked Jung directly about facing Eala again, her response was careful, almost guarded. She said it would be a difficult match, but that 3 years changes a lot, and neither player is the same as they were back then. Her plan, she said, was simply to focus on her own game and let the result take care of itself. Pay attention to what she left out. No breakdown of Eala's strengths. No talk of tactics. Barely even a mention of that Asian Games battle. She kept the entire answer pointed inward, and that pattern held when journalists pushed harder. She admitted the real fight for her right now is just staying locked in for a full match, holding her concentration from the first point to the last. At this stage of her comeback, she said, it's not really about the opponent across the net. It's about whether she can control her own level and get back to where she used to be. That's not a champion brushing off a dangerous opponent. That's someone who knows her toughest opponent right now is her own consistency. She's been open about the fact that she hasn't put together 3 straight wins since coming back from injury, and that admission changes how you read everything else she said. This isn't the version of Zheng Qinwen who reached the Australian Open final in 2024 speaking with total confidence. This is a player rebuilding piece by piece, trying not to load herself with pressure before she's actually ready to carry it. Now flip to the other side of this story because Alex Eala didn't arrive at this rematch quietly. She's the player who just made Wimbledon history, becoming the first man or woman from the Philippines to ever reach the second week of a Grand Slam, with fans who crossed oceans just to be there and watch it happen. Before she'd even struck a ball at the All England Club, the tournament was already buzzing because Serena Williams had taken a wild card into the singles draw for her first match in nearly 4 years, and everyone wanted to know if Eala might end up across the net from her in round 2. But Eala still had to punch her ticket first. Weeks earlier, she was sitting outside the top 30 with no signature Grand Slam run behind her. Then she won the grass court title in Birmingham, coming back from a set down in the final, and followed it up in Berlin by beating world number 2 Elena Rybakina and then Alina Svitolina in back-to-back matches. Those results lifted her to the 29 seed, making her the first Filipino ever seeded at a major. Her Wimbledon opener came against Renata Zarazua, a familiar face she'd partnered with in doubles before. Eala dominated it, winning 6-1, 6-2 in just over an hour, hammering 22 winners and controlling the net all match. Then the Serena question got answered before it could even happen, because a young Australian named Maya Joint knocked Serena out in round 1. That put Joint in front of Eala instead, and this one wasn't easy. Eala dropped the first set 3-6, one loss away from an early exit, then flipped the match completely, taking the next 2 sets 6-2 and 6-0. That win made her the first Filipino ever to reach round 3 of a major in the Open era. Waiting there was Iga Świątek, the defending champion and 6-time Grand Slam winner, someone Eala had actually beaten once before, at the Miami Open the year prior. The first set alone stretched past 80 minutes. Swiatek served for it at 5-3, but Eala broke straight back, forced a tiebreak, and somehow clawed her way through at 11-9 after saving multiple set points along the way. In the second set, she broke Swiatek's serve 3 separate times, survived 5 break points in a row while serving for the match, and finally closed it out 7-6, 6-2. Afterward, in tears, she talked about training after school with her brother and grandfather back home, wearing socks and shoes that were falling apart, and said the win meant something different to her than it would to a player who already had a trophy case full of majors. Then, still crying, she added that being emotional didn't mean she was satisfied. Stitched onto her visor all tournament was a Tagalog phrase that translates to something like, "Once it grows, it cannot be stopped." After beating the defending champion on center court, that line stopped sounding like a motto and started sounding like a promise she'd already delivered on. Her run continued into round 4 against Jasmine Paolini, last year's finalist, and after Wimbledon, she kept building, teaming up with Venus Williams in doubles in Germany and later at the Washington Open, a full-circle moment for someone who grew up idolizing the Williams sisters. Before this year, Eala had only played 6 Grand Slam main draws in her career, and she'd lost more than she'd won in almost every one of them, which is exactly why what happened at Wimbledon hits so differently. And now the rematch everyone had been building up to finally happened, and this time the script flipped. On July 28th, Eala and Jung met again in the first round of the Mubadala DC Open, and unlike 2023, it was Eala who walked away with the win, a gritty 3-set comeback, 4-6, 6-4, 6-1. Jung took the opener, riding her serve to a 6-4 first set and firing off 14 aces along the way. But Eala refused to fold. She clawed back in the second set, trading games until she found the break she needed to force a decider, then blew the match open in the third, racing out to a 4-0 lead and closing it out 6-1 to seal her first-ever career win over Zheng. It was the flip side of that 3-hour Asian Games battle 3 years earlier, and this time, Eala was the one left standing. She now moves on to face defending champion Leylah Fernandez, a rematch she'd go on to win as well, continuing her remarkable run through Washington.